Okay. You're live.
We're live. Okay. Oh, how a rose are blooming from tender stem has sprung. Of Jesse's lineage coming, as the men of old have sung. It came a flower bright amid the cold of winter, when half spent was the night. Isaiah was foretolding the robes I have in mind. With Mary we beholding the Virgin Mother kind, to show God's love the bride. She bore to us a Savior, when half spent was the night. These flowers fragrance tender, with sweetness fills the air, dispels with glorious splendor the darkness everywhere. True man, yet very God. From sin and death he saves us, and lightens every load. Ooh, Savior, child of Mary, who felt our human woe. Ooh, Savior, King of glory, who dost our weakness know. Bring us at length, we pray, to the bright courts of heaven, and to the light of day.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us online for our gathering the first Sunday after Christmas. We're excited for everybody who's holding space with us this morning. And we're also really, really pleased to have our leaders here with us today, helping us lead the gathering. Hi to Matthew and Sierra and Drew and Amanda, and of course, Brittany Graves, today's preacher. Yes, I'm so excited. We wanted to invite you to join us in participating in this moment by clicking on the link to the guide, which is pinned in the comments, so you can follow along with the order and with all of the beautiful liturgy that we have planned. Also, go grab your communion. Check it out. You guys have anything fun? Matt's got a chocolate covered pretzel, I think. What does that cup say, Matt?
Life is good.
Oh,
Got
okay.
a puppy dog roasting a marshmallow.
Wait, hold on, Bowens. What was that? Was that a cupcake? Wait, what is it? I cannot see.
You're muted.
You're muted. Unmute.
It's a roll from Christmas dinner.
Oh, that sounds good. Yes. Sierra, what do you got going?
almond and kombucha.
Oh, nice and healthy. Holding it down for the health nuts. Get it? Nuts. Okay. Brittany, Brittany, don't mute yourself. We want to hear that joyous laugh.
It actually was a silent laugh, but now you can hear it. So I've got some water and a piece of popcorn.
Nice. I love hearing everybody's communion elements. So please share in the comments. Good morning to everybody watching. Okay. We are not going to have a gathering this coming week. It's the first weekend, and we often won't have a gathering on the first weekend of the month unless there's a special day in the church calendar happening. But we're not going to have a gathering this Sunday. So don't show up on Facebook at 10 a.m. unless you just want to scroll for fun. The rest of us are going to be sleeping in, having a nice big breakfast, going on a hike.
Fill
whatever,
your soul.
Filling our soul. Fill your soul Sunday is what we like to call it. And so we will not have a gathering. Please, please, please pay attention to our social media or our emails, our weekly emails, so that you can see what is coming up in the coming month and beyond. For instance, some of you who get the emails, let us know if you don't, we can add you. But the Race and Equity Round 2 cohort for the winter is the sign up is available now. So all you have to do is email me if you want to be a part of that cohort. Fran led our first one in the fall.
It was so good
yeah.
too. It was so good.
Do you want to give a testimony?
It was really sweet time of learning historical truth and discussing and like being vulnerable. It was great. So.
Yeah, they had a great group. We do have a cap, and they had to. We have a waiting list.
Pretty small. So.
We have a waiting list that's kind of rolling over, so we'll contact you to see if you're still interested. But that's going to be every Thursday evening in February, so 4 weeks. It doesn't take too much preparation, but it's really important, and we're going to keep doing it until, most everyone has had an opportunity. So I'm going to lead the cohort.
It's really important. Everyone should do it.
Yeah. Something that I was wondering, what do you think? So I had asked about people of color. Like for me, obviously I need to do the cohort because I have anti-racism work to do. But is this mostly for like,
it's for anyone,
for anybody? Mm-hmm. So Lisa Sharon Harper, if you look her up, she is the person that is leading this, and we're learning from her. So I just wanted to be clear about that. Okay, what else do I have here? I'm sorry, I'm looking at notes and they're like on this stool. So I'm looking ahead. Homeroom. We're starting this thing where we're going to try it on the 10th when we meet again for the gathering, where we can have some extra community after the Sunday gathering in Zoom. And so what we'll do is we'll share the Zoom link in the comments during the service. And then if you want to just have a chit chat and visit with people afterwards, we'll all jump into Zoom together and just see how it goes. And we're calling it Homeroom. I can't remember why, Matt.
It's such a fun title, but it kind of reminded us of like that middle school homeroom that you go back to. I forget, like in the middle of the day or in between classes or something, but I love the fun titles we choose for stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And check your emails because it's all in there. Okay, so that's all I'm going to share. That was plenty of time for people to sign on. Brittany is going to graciously lead us in the chiming of the hour this morning. So thank you, Brittany. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. We are so grateful for each one of you.
Are y'all ready? Can you hear me?
Hi, my name is Sierra, and I will be leading us today in the Christmas Litany, which is the Litany for the Fullness of Time. If you will join me in our guide. Now, in the fullness of time, God has sent the Christ. The Christ has been born into the world,
and into our hearts.
And his imagination goes out everywhere, bringing
salvation and redemption,
goodness and praise,
healing and blessing.
We carry him with us everywhere we go. We bear
his kingdom forth.
We rejoice with Anna and Simeon. Our eyes
have seen your salvation.
We have beheld the Christ, and we will never be
the same again.
For hope, peace, love, and joy have made their home with us, and we are
building them into our communities,
our societies, our
relationships,
our governments, our
workplaces.
Here, in the fullness of time, we have everything we need, with which
to reimagine the world.
Help us, O God, to partner with Christ in renewing
creation,
in caring for all beings,
in fostering peace on earth. Amen.
Hi guys, so I'm Amanda Bowen and I'm going to be doing the children's lesson today. So if you guys can get all your kids to come near the screen, that would be super awesome. Okay, so we just finished up Christmas and it was amazing. Did you guys have a good time? I'm sure you did. So when I think about Christmas, there's lots of sounds that I think about. So I'm gonna say some Christmas sounds and you guys are gonna think about what these sounds are. So listen to my first sound, ready? Ba la 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 la. So carols, Christmas carols, that's a sound of the season. Listen to this one. Ho, ho, ho. What do you think of when you hear that? Santa? Yes. Okay, listen to this one. It's a little bit tricky. Think of somewhere cold. Ready? Crunch, 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 crunch. Walking in the snow? We don't get a lot of snow here, but when I hear that sound, I think of Christmas. And listen to this one. Ready? Can you see what it is? It's a jingle bell. You guys, you may have a jingle bell around your house. If you do, go ahead and go grab it or get mom and dad to grab it for you. Drew, do you have a jingle bell? Let's jingle bells. You guys, I wanted to sing a joyful song together. Let's sing Joy to the World. Ready?
Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive. Every heart preparing room,
And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Good job, guys. All right. So when I hear the sound of a jingle bell, it brings me joy. It makes me think of the joy of the Christmas season. So if you have a bell in front of you, I want you to look at that bell and think about, how does this make noise? How does this thing make noise? Can y'all see anything inside of there? Look deep inside that bell. Mine's a pretty big bell, so it's kind of easy to see, but there are some really tiny jingle bells and it's harder to see. But in there, you can see a ball. A ball is in there and it's rolling around to help make that noise. And just from looking at it from far away, you can't see that ball in there. But if you look closely, you can see the ball is inside and it's helping produce or make that joy. Just like God within us. God's Spirit is inside of us. You can't see the Spirit of God in us, but it bursts bursts out through us and it makes us joyful and it makes us want to share that joy with everybody. So I want us to try something. I want us to take that bell, put your hands around it, and try to ring it as loud as you can. Ready? Cover it up and ring it. Oh, that's not a very joyful sound. Oh, I don't like that sound. When you cover it, it does not sound good at all. So just like the bell represents our life, we don't want to cover up God. We don't want to not share it with people. We don't want to cover our mouth and cover our good actions. We want to share the love of God with everyone around us. We want to share how joyful we are because God is with us and in us. We want to share that with other people. So I have a verse I want to share with you from the Bible. So this scripture is from 1 Peter 1:8, and it says, "Though we have not seen him, we love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with a glorious joy." And then in Romans 15, it says, "May the God of hope fill you with joy and peace as you trust in him." So whenever you guys see a jingle bell, whether it's for the next few days before you take down Christmas decorations or throughout the year or maybe next Christmas, whenever you see a bell or hear a bell, I want you to think about how that ball, that little tiny ball inside that bell brings us so much joy when we hear that noise. And you can think about how God in us can help us give joy to others. So that's what you can think of when you hear a bell. Thanks, guys.
Okay, wow, thank you, Bowens. I don't like following you guys. I agree with the Facebook comments right now that like you two need your own show. You'd be fantastic at this, and you already are. But we're going to transition into our time of communion, and hopefully the kids are still around, and they are always, always not just welcome into something the adults are doing, but this is your ritual too, kiddos. So I hope you're still around and you have your communion elements too, because this is for everybody. But I want to share a few brief thoughts I have before we take communion together. Like I'm sure so many of you are feeling these days, I feel a lot of confusion and what can be called cognitive dissonance these days. Here we are in the middle of the Christmas season, this joyous season. And it's a season, by the way, right? It's not just the one day of Christmas. Like we are literally in a liturgical season of Christmas that lasts for a while. And so it's this time of celebrating and of joy. And at the same time, last night, 14 million Americans lost their unemployment aid because the stimulus package has not yet been approved. And millions upon millions of Americans stand to lose their homes in the new year because the eviction moratorium ends on December 31st. So I feel pulled in multiple directions. And I'm thinking about families on this day. And today is actually the Feast of the Holy Family that some Christians will celebrate. It's the feast of celebrating this Holy Family of Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus. And at the same time, I feel a lot of gratitude because I'm not currently in danger of losing my home, and we've been able to maintain our income through the pandemic. So I feel pulled in multiple directions. And it reminds me of this character in one of the very first books that we read as a family, and it was one of the Dr. Dolittle books. I don't know if you all have actually taken the time to read these books, but they are fantastic. Yeah, there's like some really dated, bad, racist stuff in it, but there's also a lot of good stuff in there that he wrote. And there's one character in there in particular among all the fantastic animals, and it's called the Push Me, Pull You. You know, the Push Me, Pull You. And here's how he described it. A push me pull you had no tail, but it had a head at each end and sharp horns on each head. They were very shy and terribly hard to catch. You could usually catch an animal by sneaking up behind them while they weren't looking, but you couldn't do this with a push me pull you because no matter which way you came toward it, it was always facing you. And I've been thinking so much these days about how we are living in a push me, pull you kind of world, pulled in multiple directions, competing needs, competing requirements put on us, whether it's pandemic homeschooling or working from home or trying to pay bills in the midst of an economic recession, all these things. We are living in a push me, pull you kind of world. And it's times like this that we need holy rituals more than ever. I know David in his communion meditation last week talked about the power of rituals, and it really spoke to me. And I've been thinking about how we need rituals. Ritual is what holds us and carries us through the most difficult of times. Rituals put our feet on the ground. Rituals, they hold us. Hold on, I'm seeing Clark has a comment here on Facebook. The movie version didn't include the push me pull you, I think. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop looking at Facebook right now. Rituals. When I'm a hospital chaplain, when I'm on duty as a hospital chaplain, I have rituals that keep me grounded. Before I walk into a room, I do hand sanitizer on my hands and I say a prayer. God, please hold me as I hold whatever pain and joy lies behind this door, because it's so hard for an introvert like me to walk through a closed door. But I have rituals that prepare me to be grounded and to be able to do the good work that I'm called to do in this world. So that's usually what I pray. Here at Peace, we practice the ritual of communion every single week. We aren't strict legalists about it. I'm sure you've noticed that. Earlier, I held up a chocolate pretzel and a cup of coffee with oat milk in it in a pink mug with a dog, right? You're not going to see that at most churches. We are not strict legalists about how you practice communion. We say get something to eat and something to drink, although most churches will use crackers and wine or juice. I once saw a movie where three friends were about to be executed by the state, and they shared a cigarette before the execution. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that is a picture of Holy Communion. One of the most beautiful pictures of Holy Communion I'd ever seen. And I actually watched this movie in a seminary class, and I was afraid to share that observation because I thought that's pushing it too far. It's going to get rejected. But I think I was right, because what matters is the ritual of gathering and sharing. And this is what it all boils down to. It's a grounding ritual with you all every single week that we do and that I look forward to, especially in this push me, pull you kind of world that we're living in right now. So at this time, I invite you to join me in the Liturgy of Communion that you'll find in your guide. Get your communion elements, and I will read the italicized parts, and we can all join in the bold parts together as we practice this beautiful ritual that puts our feet and our minds and our hearts on the ground and keeps us embodied. The Lord be with you, and also with you. Lift up your hearts. We lift them to the Lord. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. It is right to give our thanks and praise. Please pray with me. Our God, as we practice this simple ritual of communion with whatever basic elements we can find, because that's how you work. You show up in the most common, mundane, unexpected of places. We ask that you would help our hearts and our minds and our bodies to be grounded again, to be grounded in you, to be grounded in the goodness of life, to be grounded in the goodness and the gift of a community that is practicing love amidst all the chaos of our world. Amen. At this time, please join me in taking the communion elements. Great is the mystery of faith. Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come
Christ.
again. Amen.
Okay, y'all. So I put a few Christmas hymns in today's service. Lyle's gonna sing with me. And here's the thing. I know that it's tempting when you're just at home looking at Zoom. It's tempting to not actually open your mouth and sing. But I would encourage you not to do that today. I would encourage you to actually open your mouth and sing wherever you are, whoever you're with, because as you have probably heard me say many times before, singing is a physical act that helps us access our spiritual selves. It's important. It's an important part of human ritual and human practice. And especially in the Christmas season when our Christmas hymns and carols are so important to us and so beloved to us. So I've thrown, today we'll do for the first Noel, and I invite you to pull up the lyrics. I linked them in the guide, and then actually open your mouth and sing, yeah? The first Noel, the angels did say, was to certain poor shepherds in fields as they lay, in fields where they lay keeping their sheep on a cold winter's night that was so deep. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. They looked up and saw a star shining in the east, beyond them far, and to the earth it gave great light, and so it continued both day and night. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. By the light, and by the light of that same star, 3 wise men came from country far to seek for a king. 'Twas their intent, and to follow the star wherever it went. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. The star drew nigh to the northwest, o'er Bethlehem it took its rest, and there it did, oh, stop and stay, right over the place where Jesus lay. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel.
All right, Lyle.
Keep that piece of coffee down. Did you turn off the original sound?
Yes. Okay. Next up is a deeper look, which is a little segment we've actually done forever. For our whole time in 8 years, we have been doing this. We've been calling it a deeper look here and there. And in 8 years, Lyle has never done a deeper look. Isn't that crazy? That is just an outrage. Lyle told me today that it was because we don't care about him. So if you guys
It's
could,
hard to be a pastor's husband.
if you guys could do a little cheerleading for Lyle in the comments, we're going to go ahead and kick this off with the first question, which isn't a question at all. It is a command. Lyle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Lyle, and I'm Aurelia's husband, and I'm Fran's brother, which may be confusing to those who don't live around here and just see last names. I work in telecom. I run strategy for the largest wholesale telecom network in the world. In my spare time, I guess should we flow into the next question?
Is this it? Are you ready to?
I mean, I don't know what else to say.
I always tell people that if for anyone who watches Friends, whenever people ask me what Lyle does, I'm like, do you watch Friends? He's like Chandler. Like, I don't really know what he does. He just said that and I still don't really understand. I'm just kidding, sort of. Okay. So next question. Tell us something about you that's kind of a quirk or something that you would have to tell people for them to know.
Well, I was going to flow into the fact that I really love martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's been a kind of a hard part of the pandemic because I haven't been doing that. But the thing is it's my way to de-stress, and it's really hard to be stressed out about anything when somebody's trying to choke you unconscious. And I don't get to do that during the pandemic, and that's
Pleasure.
that's
That's
really
been
it's been really hard. Yeah, so I had to find other outlets.
Yeah. So if you have any ideas of de-stressing that are quarantine friendly, feel free to drop them in the comments. Fun fact, when I was 8 months pregnant, Lyle broke his hand the week before our birthing class because he was holding on to the gi of, they call the teacher the professor in jiu-jitsu. He was holding on to the gi and all he needed to do was just let go, just give up. But he wouldn't let go. So he literally broke his hand holding on to a gi. And he had to get 7 screws and he couldn't help me in the birthing class. And I was really angry, but that's a good metaphor for Lyle.
And I'm still paying for that.
He doesn't give up easily. He's one of the most strong-willed, but also motivated people that I've ever met. So
This is my deeper look.
sorry, I just want to add commentary. I'm biased. Okay, wait, hold on. Bonus question, almost forgot. Bonus surprise question. This is what came to my mind. I'm kind of scared, but Lyle, what is your most favorite thing and least favorite thing about being a pastor's husband?
Boy,
Hard one, really. Jeez.
It's what came to my mind.
most favorite thing is to see you in your element, succeeding and doing what you do. That's my most favorite thing.
Aw.
My least favorite thing is the fact that it takes 8 years to do a deeper look.
That's a cop out. Okay, whatever. I'll
I
ask
thought you
him.
were going to say all the casseroles you have to make.
Yeah, and all the forced singing and.
I do have a lot of forced singing,
more comes
back
from
when we
me, though.
had a space, forced cleanup of, chairs and things. like
Everyone
that.
has to do that. Boo-hoo. And when we meet again, it'll continue.
Be ready.
I don't know why I keep looking at my notes. I don't have these written down. Last question. What is something that you're particularly passionate about right now pertaining to your spiritual life? And of course, we know our spiritual life is the same thing as our life, right?
Well, I guess, I'm kind of an economics geek. I was an undergrad economics major. I have an MBA, and I've always been interested in economics. And during this quarantine, I got involved with this online group that actually Matt invited me to, and then he ghosted. So
Twitter.
This is all Matt's fault. And it was a group where we were reading some books and stuff and thinking about sort of the moral implications of monetary policy and things like that. And we ended up, a group of 8 people, we wrote a book called Thank God for Bitcoin, The Creation, Corruption, and Redemption of Money. Seems kind of weird, but it's a sort of a look into the spiritual and moral implications of monetary policy. And keep in mind, it was written by 8 people from 8 different backgrounds. We have a Coptic, a Christian Coptic from Egypt. We have a Orthodox, a Russian Orthodox. We have people from all different backgrounds, that have participated in writing this. And, it's an interesting thing. Check it out.
Yeah, it's called Thank God for Bitcoin. It's on Amazon. I know you're going to want to look it up, even if you don't buy it. But I told Lyle when he told me he was writing a book on kind of like the connection of Bitcoin and faith, I was like, I cannot believe you're writing a book on faith before me. It was just really funny. All right. Well, Lyle, thanks for taking part in that. That's kind of a vulnerable thing for anybody to do, a deeper look. So we really appreciate it. And we're just now looking forward to moving on to the rest of today's gathering.
All right. I'm going to be reading a passage from Luke chapter 2. It's going to be verses 22 through 40, if you want to follow along. When the time came for the purification rites required by the law of Moses, Joseph and Mary took him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. As it is written in the law of the Lord, every firstborn male is to be consecrated to the Lord, and to offer sacrifice in keeping with what is said in the law of the Lord, a pair of doves or 2 young pigeons. Now, there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon, who was righteous and devout. He was waiting for the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit was on him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not die before he had seen the Lord's Messiah. Moved by the Spirit, he went into the temple courts. When the parents brought in the child Jesus to do for him what the custom of the law required, Simeon took him in his arms and praised God, saying, "Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of all nations, a light for revelation to the Gentiles and the glory of your people Israel." The child's father and mother marveled at what was said about him. Then Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, "This child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thought of many hearts will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too." There was also a prophet, Anna, the daughter of Penuel of the tribe of Asher. She was very old. She had lived with her husband 7 years after her marriage, and then was a widow until she was 84. She never left the temple, but worshiped night and day, fasting and praying. Coming up to them at that very moment, she gave thanks to God and spoke about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. When Joseph and Mary had done everything required by the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee, to their own town of Nazareth. And the child grew and became strong. He was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him. We hear the voice of God in these words. Thanks be to God.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Drew, for reading that scripture. I don't know if many of you all know this or not, but Drew has read most of the scriptures before I've preached on occasions that I've preached at Peace. So I'm glad to hear you read this morning. And I'm glad to be here with everyone virtually today. I I am actually more nervous than my norm this morning. I feel like I'm kind of out of my element because I had a lot of resistance to creating a manuscript. So I am flowing this morning. So give me some grace and send me some prayers and love as you listen. But first, I wanted to start by just starting in reflection and finding it hard to believe that this is the last Sunday of 2020. Can you all believe that? It has been a whirlwind of a year. And I just wanted to give some praise to Peace of Christ as a whole. In this year, I feel like Peace of Christ quickly adapted to everything that this year brought and instilled this sense of community that I feel like a lot of other churches and communities in general might have struggled with. So I want to extend some kudos to the pastors, Aurelia, Fran, and Matt, for a job well done in a rambunctious year. And also to give it up to Peace of Christ community as a whole. This is a space that I love dearly and has been a place that I've been brought into in such a beautiful way. So I am grateful for it, and I am grateful for you all. So as we continue to flow this morning, I want to start our text by reading it and doing it in Lectio Divina style. So since it is short, it won't take that long, but I'm going to read it 2 times. So let us begin. Oh, and let me also say that this is a hybrid of the NRSV and the Inclusive Bible put together. I just loved some of the language in both. So here it is. Galatians 4, verses 4 through 7. In this first reading, I want you to listen and imagine what it might be like to have heard this story in the time that Christ was born. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent for the Christ, born of a woman, born under the law, in order to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as heirs. The proof that you are children of God is the fact that God has sent forth into our hearts the spirit of the child who calls out, Abba. You are no longer slaves, but daughters and sons. And if you are daughters and sons, you are also heirs through God. In this second reading, I want you to lean into how this text shows up for you in this moment, in this holiday season, or in what ways it prompts you to live more freely. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent for the Christ, born of a woman, born under the law, in order to redeem those who were under the law so that we might receive adoption as heirs. The proof that you are children of God is the fact that God has sent forth into our hearts the Spirit of God who calls out, Abba. You are no longer slaves, but daughters and sons. And if you are daughters and sons, you are also heirs through God. Thanks be to God. So upon reading the text, I couldn't help but imagine what it might have been like for Mary and Joseph to prepare for Jesus's coming, or how drastically their life might have changed. To prepare for Jesus's coming that brought up multiple truths, both hopeful and difficult, that Christ was miracle and blessing, and may have also come with burden. With it came those who awaited his glory, like Simeon and Anna, who had this inner knowing and joy of the deliverance he'd bring. And on the other end of the spectrum, you may have those who know what Jesus represents, but are unwilling or sometimes skeptical to take a deeper dive and resistant to what Christ's presence might change. You might think of folks who want to be free, but are also existing in this same paradigm that produces this cycle of limitation, or don't yet know how to break free from it. And then there might be those that benefit exactly from how things are, with no desire to give up anything or want to see everyone free. So Christ comes, his inception forevermore known to bring light and promise as Savior. Of all the ways God could have sent into the world, Christ was born with the intent to be born of a woman and born under the law, to be born in divine timing, a living, breathing sign among them of freedom and liberation. And it made me curious to think of the continual ways we remember the sign and grace of Christ in our lives, even now. So I started to think about my own family, to think about my own heritage and the things that I continue in my own way from those who have come before me. And it is a big reason for how I have come to title this sermon, which I've called Children of Grace. And I think if you didn't know, you might think grace might come from the grace that God continues to give us day in and day out. But even more meaningful for me, I think of grace as a part of my lineage. I don't know about you all, but my family has family reunions every few years. I wouldn't say we do it every year, but every few years we come together in some shape or form, which I imagine will change now, and have a reunion of which a tradition or ritual in my own family is a shirt. Does anybody else get shirts in their families? Yeah, great. And on our shirt, mostly on my maternal side, our shirts are always entitled children of grace. And the meaning behind grace is that my grandmother's grandmother, so my great grandmother, her name was Grace. So even though I didn't know her, she continues to be passed down, even to me, through her name. And it makes me think of the ways that we continue to bring about legacy and continue to bring about change, or continue to live within the heritage of which we were brought up. Some in good ways and some in ways that might need to change or bring about something new. But I want you to also tap into what that looks like in your own family. The things that you might continue to pass down without knowing, or some traditions that you continue to carry on, whether it's something as simple as a family meal or recipe or stories. What are ways that we continue to tap into the inheritance that we're living into in this day? It makes me think of how we are living into the freedom that we see in the text that Christ has brought us. What empowers us to live into the freedom that is already here. I think in this year, so much has been brought up in this world and in this time that is undeniable, just because of how the pandemic has come, the way that we receive information. We are steadily receiving news of grief or trauma or injustice. We receive it because it is easily accessible. And I want us to continue to imagine what it looks like, not only to tap into the things that we know are here, but continue to dream into what we can create for something new and something else that is ahead. So I actually have a quote that I want to share because it's just too good not to share. And I've actually shared a quote from her before in a sermon I believe I preached last year at Peace. It is from Miriam Hasna, where she poses a question: who are the visionaries to create what you want in the world? And she answers it by saying, quote, "You don't create by focusing on the old. Instead, focus on the new in a way that the old becomes obsolete." I'm gonna say it again, because I want you to sit and think about all the ways that we receive information and how much we know of old, whether it's in our own family traditions or way we live in this world, how we can bring about something new. So she says, you don't create by focusing on the old. Instead, focus on the new in a way that the old becomes obsolete. End quote. So when I hear that, for me, this might be a little bit radical, but for me, when I hear that, it makes me think it's almost as if to obsess over what's wrong instead of creating what is right is to reject the inheritance of God. What are the ways that we can continue to create and bring about new things to be reborn in ways that we can continue to dream and bring about justice and truth? New things are coming. I don't know how you have felt in this whirlwind of a year, but for me, it feels like there's an incessant and persistence in bringing this newness and this change into the world. I feel like I felt it even as the pandemic began, and I'm continuing to feel it even now. I feel like more people are tapping into something new within them and what they can create and how we can continue to do that collectively. So even in the midst of grief and struggle, I think this year has shown us that we still have a great deal of capacity to continue to learn and to grow and to live anew every day, even if we have to start again the day after. So as we continue into this new space with a new year coming, I think it gives us the opportunity to set some intention. And even if we get away from that intention, to come back to the intention again whenever we need it. To tap into what it really means to live your life as an heir, a child, a daughter or son of God. What are the things that we resonate with and the things that we need to let go of? What does it look like to know truth and not chains? To live your life in inheritance, to recognize the attributes, the favor, and the wisdom passed down to us. And I just want to end with a song that kept ringing in my ear, even though it's not a song that I have heard in years. And it actually is more so related to the promise and the blessings that Abraham received and carries over into what we see as Christ brings us new life and new hope. So it is called Blessings of Abraham, and I'm going to sing a piece of it. It says, get your inheritance, get your inheritance, get your inheritance, get your inheritance. You are the seed, by faith receive the blessing of Abraham, the blessing of Abraham. And with that, I hope we also continue to tap into the blessings we receive from Christ and how we can carry on the inheritance that God continues to give and show us. Love you all. Many blessings.
Thank you, Brittany. I love that song, and I don't like singing after you. I wish we could just let that be the song that flows forward. But I still like singing, and I still think singing is important, and we're going to sing a little bit more. So thank you for leading us into singing with singing. Here we go. Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Sing choirs. Sing choirs of angels, sing in exaltation. Sing, all ye citizens of heaven above. Glory to God, oh, glory in the highest. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Yea, Lord, we greet thee. Yea, Lord, we greet thee. Born this happy morning, Jesus, to thee be all glory given. Word of the Father, now in flesh appearing. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Thank you, friends. And thank you, Brittany, for spending time this week thinking of us and writing sacred words and sacred wisdom to give to us. Such a gift. Really, really grateful for you. And of course, everyone in the comments is going off about how you always sing in your sermons. And so we know it's way past. You can't not do it anymore from now on. I'm just kidding. Brittany's sermon will be up on our podcast probably tomorrow or maybe later today, but so you can go back and re-listen. Feel free to share with your community, your social media community. It's a great way to share our community with others through our podcast. And thank you to everyone who gathered with us today out there in the Facebook hemisphere and here on Zoom leading. We are so grateful for each one of you, and we're going to read our benediction now together. I'll read all of it, but if you want to respond in the bold, please do. And remember, we're not having a gathering next week, so do something really wonderful for yourself, or don't do anything at all, and that's also a gift. But we will see you back on the 10th. So join me now for the benediction. Lord, you are ascending God. You sent your word to create. You sent Christ to reveal. You sent your spirit to empower. You sent your church to proclaim. Send us,
O God, to renew the earth. Lead us by your Spirit and your word. As your people, we now go by our grace, by our making known.
People of God, you are sent. Go in peace, for peace, and we'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry